Hey everybody and welcome back to the channel, and today we are talking about TenZ. TenZ is probably the most popular player in Valorant right now, and just over the course of the game, that's what he's been. And recently, a commentator slash analyst slash content creator by the name of Sideshow made an hour-plus-long video about TenZ, analyzing his play and basically saying that TenZ needs a lot of coaching. He looked at many plays, a lot of maps that TenZ has played, and he pointed out a lot of flaws within his game. And usually this wouldn't really be a big deal, but it's been made a big deal by the Valorant community at large. And there's been controversy around it, either people agreeing with Sideshow or people being huge TenZ fans and saying that he shouldn't have made the video or something like that, or that he's really good and Sideshow sucks and who cares and all this stuff, and I decided to make a video about it. Now, TenZ is a very interesting player. He's been in Valorant since the beginning. He was playing CS for, I believe, Cloud9, and then he moved to their Valorant team once that game came out. And he had a really rough kind of start to his career in Valorant. He showed a lot of promise, but he did get benched by Cloud9, and then eventually Sentinels picked him up and then immediately started winning tournaments with him. Early on, it seemed like Sentinels had made the best decision possible by picking him up. It was apparently a very expensive transfer as well, upwards of $1 million from Sentinels to Cloud9 to get him. So he came into that team with a lot of expectations and a lot of things with the team riding on him, and he proved them right very quickly. They won the first Masters, which was just regional Masters, so it was the North American Championship. Then they go to Iceland Reykjavik, the very first international tournament for Valorant, and Sentinels win it without even dropping a map. And TenZ during that tournament was the best player, and immediately after that, the pressure was on and people started to think of TenZ as the best player in the world. But ever since that tournament in that year in 2021, TenZ has not lived up to that expectation. And I felt like at the time, saying that TenZ was the best player in the world, I thought at first it was pretty premature. This game was still very young at the time. It was the very first international tournament. If he's truly the best player in the world, if Sentinels was truly the best team in the world at that point, they're going to have to follow up that Iceland performance with a really good performance at the next tournament, which I believe was in Berlin. And they had a decent performance there, but they did end up losing and not winning that one. And then Masters came along and they didn't even make it past groups. So a lot of pressure was put onto TenZ right away, and I felt like that was kind of unfair. Obviously, it's going to happen with any player that has success, especially in the way that TenZ did during that first year in 2021, where you're just going to put, that player is going to have pressure put on them. If someone tells you that you're the best in the world, obviously they're going to have very high expectations for you. And by the end of that year, it seemed like a lot of that TenZ is the best in the world talk was kind of going away, not entirely, but a little bit. But going into 2022, there were obviously still high expectations for Sentinels and for TenZ. And I just felt like he was just getting a lot of pressure, and I could tell that he's not really a guy that thrives under pressure. I have not personally met TenZ, but the vibe that I get from him is that he's a very nice guy, he's a very skilled gamer, he's really good, but when the going gets tough, he can get in his own head, and he can play really well at times, and then when he's not playing well or when he's struggling a bit, it's hard for him to break out of that. So he's not a person that strikes me as someone who really thrives under a lot of pressure. And he was put under an immense amount of it, and then he became the most popular player in the world. So there's a lot of pressure on him, there's a lot more eyes on him, there's people in his comments, he has diehard fans, but he has diehard haters. Which I feel like is weird to hate on a guy like him, because he just seems like such a nice dude and just so easygoing and stuff. So 2022 happens, TenZ doesn't perform very well, Sentinels don't make it to any international tournament, they struggle as well. But they get into the franchise league and TenZ remains on the roster. They do not drop TenZ. There was, I think, discussions about it. There was talk about maybe TenZ was one of the pieces that they don't keep heading into the franchise league. And I thought that might have been a mistake. I do think TenZ has a lot of talent and a lot of potential. I think his ceiling is very good. And when he reaches it, you can see how incredible he can be. He has an immense amount of individual skill, which is very important for a player to have. But as Sideshow points out in his video, is that he doesn't always make the best decisions. And maybe the role that he's been playing, which is generally entry duelist and opper, maybe that just isn't really suited for him. Sideshow did say a lot of positive things about him. He said that he's really good on bind. He looked through a bunch of bind matches and he showed some very smart gameplay from TenZ. He also said he has a good Yoru, where he uses the flash as well. He uses the decoys well. And a lot of players haven't figured out Yoru yet. He's a very kind of complicated agent to have success with, because you have to be able to use his tools and his util in creative ways so that you can deceive your opponents and use the flash as well. And players know this. I remember FNS talking about his potential role on Sentinels next year, not FNS, TenZ, saying that if he's on Yoru, if he's on Duelist, he can be incredibly good. And he can be one of the most dangerous players to play against because he's so insane with Yoru and just with how he can just get good kills. The issue is he hasn't been able to partner that really good skill with really good game sense and teamwork. They haven't mixed for him, at least not in a while. And that's a lot of what Sideshow was talking about. The main point was that TenZ, he can be a bit too passive as an entry duelist. He maybe waits too long, maybe he's the second player in, which TenZ admits that he's better being the second man in. He's not very good at entry. He will tell you that himself. He said it when he was asked if he had seen the video. He has not seen it. He's not planning on it. And that was Sideshow's main point, was that he wasn't playing well as an entry fragger, and he just wasn't making the best decisions. He was going for miracle plays. He coined it as playing for a miracle. And that's definitely true with him. When TenZ has like a really good play, it looks fantastic, and he just looks like he's just like ahead of everybody else when he just makes these insane plays and with insane aim, a crazy flick, stuff like that. But you can't always have those plays. And that's kind of what TenZ goes for a lot of the time, at least from the clips and the things that Sideshow was talking about and showing the audience of the video. Now, I watched the whole Sideshow video, and I think that the people that are mad about it, or that the people that are saying that like TenZ like should watch it and stuff, I don't really think like that, and I don't think it's really important for TenZ to like watch a YouTube video from some analyst or whatever. Not that it isn't fair criticism, not that it wouldn't be helpful, but TenZ doesn't need to listen to these people. And another thing that Sideshow points out in his video is that TenZ kind of plays Jett like how she used to work and not how she works now in the current meta. I watched the whole video, and I think most of it was very fair criticism. I didn't have any problem with a lot of the stuff he was saying. I think there were things that he was maybe a bit too nitpicky about. There were some like plays and stuff where it's like, oh, he like TenZ activated his dash after getting a kill. So like he was like thinking like it worked as like the old dash did, where you just tap and you go away, like you don't have to like pre-activate it. And I thought like stuff like that was maybe a bit too nitpicky, because it's like that could just be a muscle memory thing. That could have just been like a little, it was clearly just an accident and stuff. And I think pointing out stuff like that isn't really like the best kind of criticism. But also, you know, that's Sideshow's job. He's an analyst and he critiques, and he can be nitpicky in his analysis because that's what he does. He looks through a very detailed lens and looks through plays and be like, the player should have done this, player should have went here because then that would have happened, or this would have been better and stuff. And yeah, it was a bit nitpicky, but it was nothing that I felt was unfair criticism or stuff that he maybe like shouldn't have brought up. I thought what he was saying was very fair. So I didn't personally have a problem with the video, and I thought it was very well put together. It was a very good analysis of a player that a lot of people like, in that I've liked in the past. I do like TenZ. He's a good player, but he definitely has a lot of things that he needs to work on. And he may be better suited for a support role. That was another thing that Sideshow said, where he was playing as KO. He had some good things and some bad plays and stuff, but he might just be better as more of like a flex duelist and like being the second man in. And as I said before, TenZ has admitted and did admit recently that he is better as the second man in and not the entry. So maybe if he goes to a support role, maybe some different initiator, flex duelist, something like that. I think that could definitely better suit TenZ. I think the lens of how we look at how TenZ plays and who he plays has been a bit rigid. One point that Sideshow also brought up is that he has a very shallow agent pool, which I felt was a little unfair, because a lot of players do have pretty shallow agent pools. Like, some can be great in a lot of different roles. Some are very specifically very good at one agent in one role. So I think to say that like it's a bad thing that he hasn't been playing a lot of different agents, I don't think that that's super, like, that's not surprising to me that that's something that has happened. He came in as a Jet. He was really good on Jet, and I think he's been trying to make Jet work, and he's tried other things here and there, like KO, as I said, played a bit of Raze in the past. But maybe it's time for a switch. Maybe it's time to play more of a support role. He was apparently going to play Omen on a map against, I believe it was Crew or something. And I think Sentinels and their coaching staff should probably start to try other things with TenZ, because clearly they really want to make him work. And one thing that Sideshow said that made some people angry was that he said that TenZ still has a roster spot, not because of his individual play, but because of his brand. TenZ is one of, if not the most popular player in Valorant right now, and has been for the last couple of years. He streams a lot, he makes a lot of content, he's had collabs with other esports teams through his girlfriend Kaide with 100 Thieves. He's very popular, and with popularity comes money, and Sentinels, they've been not very good at the whole making money thing, so keeping TenZ as the face of the brand, basically, is kind of the reason why he's still there. TenZ definitely wants to compete. If he wanted to go to content creation and just do that and just stream and make YouTube videos, he could have done that. He could have been doing that. But clearly, he wants to keep competing. He's a competitive guy. And Sentinels has kept him on that roster spot, and it is true that that's probably just because they want to keep him in the team, on the team, so that they can still have him as the brand. As I said, he's basically the face of that entire esports team. When you think of Sentinels, you think of TenZ. Even if you don't follow Valorant and you just kind of follow gaming and esports at large, you've probably heard of TenZ and just know that, oh yeah, he's the really popular Valorant player, right? And if you know anything about like the esports org, Sentinels, you probably think of TenZ. And we've seen players that perform really well and then they get dropped from their roster spot. Ye was the best player in the world in 2022, and he got into the franchise league. He played 2 matches with Cloud9 and then got dropped. Before that happened, that was an unthinkable reality. To think that Cloud9 would get Ye, who was the best player in the world, definitely one of, if not the most sought after player during free agency coming into the 2023 season, to only play 2 matches with Cloud9 and then get dropped. Good players, fantastic players even, players that are even seen as the best player in the world, get dropped for way less. And TenZ has remained on this team for 3 years now, and he had success at the start. He hasn't really done much since. That team has not had success ever since Iceland Reykjavik. 2021 was a long time ago. Players get dropped for less. Players get dropped for better performances than what TenZ has done. So it definitely is because he is very popular and he is the face of that brand. That's the reason why he's still there. And I do think that he is good enough to play in Tier 1. It is definitely because of his popularity is why he's still on that team. And I think most people know that. And I don't say that to say that TenZ is bad or that he doesn't deserve that Tier 1 roster spot. I just think that he has to start showing up in a big way. I think 2024, if he gets off to a slow start again, if he has to take time off again because he gets sick or something, I think that the leash for TenZ is becoming shorter and shorter. Pressure's definitely going to be on. This is a Sentinels team that struggled mightily last season. They had some ups, but mostly downs. And TenZ was kind of like the face of it all. He took a break at one point, so some losses weren't on him, but he hasn't shown up as their big star player like he used to in the past, and they need him to this year. And if he doesn't show up in that way, I think he probably gets dropped from Sentinels. Maybe they just move him to content creation or just put him on the bench, and then that's what he focuses on just out of necessity. And if he doesn't show up in that way, I don't really see any other team picking him up as a player, maybe as a content creator. Maybe he does get one other roster spot if Sentinels do drop him. I thought that 100 Thieves would be a really good fit for him because they, like, maybe not role-wise, but, you know, the whole Kaide connection is something that I can see happening. But I do think that the leash is very short. TenZ has not watched the video, as I previously stated. He isn't planning on it, and I don't think he needs to. He doesn't need to see what other people are saying about him online. He said that when he was playing Counter-Strike, he would look at things being written and said about him all the time, and it would hurt his mental. And that's what I see in TenZ. I think a lot of people just like coming at him online, that definitely has an effect on it. Players get critiqued all the time. They don't need to listen. The only people that they need to listen to, and the only people that are going to fix whatever flaws that he has in his game, is going to be the coaches on the Sentinel staff. It's going to be the analysts there. It's going to be himself knowing that he needs to improve and knowing that he needs to fix his issues. It's not going to be from some commentator making an hour-plus long video about him, and he doesn't need to see it. And I saw comments on Reddit about the video and stuff saying like, oh, he just wants to avoid all the criticism. You know, he thinks he's so good. He just doesn't want to listen to all these people because he thinks he's so much better. I really don't think that's the case. You don't need to listen to everything that everyone is saying about you online. He can improve in his own way. His coaching staff can help him, and anything that Sideshow said in the video, it wasn't inaccurate. I don't think any of it was really inaccurate in any way. But his coaches can think of the same things and can analyze it in the same way and can see those flaws as well. Maybe they see even more because that's what they do as a job. And if they're a good coaching staff and if they can see the flaws and they can think of ways to improve it, then he can fix those flaws in his game. It's not going to be fixed by him watching that video. It's not important. TenZ knows he needs to improve. He knows he hasn't been playing at the level that Sentinels have wanted him to. And last year, if during the break that he had, if Sentinels started to get on a roll and they started to win a lot of the games, he probably might not have had a roster spot for the rest of the year. We don't know because we don't live in that reality, but he might have continued to be on the bench. So his playing career was at risk for a time. Yes, he was benched because he was sick and he had some like joint issues, but still, if they went on a roll, he would have probably spent the rest of the season on the bench. Fortunately for him, that did not happen. The team kept losing, and then he was put back into the lineup. But I do think that this is his last chance, and he probably knows that, and he probably thinks that as well. So he needs to start proving that he can be at the level that he used to be. And I don't think he needs to watch some hour-plus long video about how he's sucked. Not that it was just an attack on him. Sideshow was very fair with his video, I believe. But I understand why he doesn't want to see it, and I understand why he wouldn't put that in front of him. You know, I don't think it's just not necessary, in my opinion. Anyways, that is all for today. Let me know what you guys think about this whole situation revolving TenZ and Sideshow, and what you think of his play over the past couple years. If you're a TenZ fan, what do you see in his game that is really good? Why do you still think that he is or can be one of the best players in the world? If you're a TenZ hater, why? Why is he bad? Comment down below all your thoughts on the subject of this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!